This is episode 26 of Spiritual AF with Pixie Rose, the podcast for people going on their spiritual journey, knowing that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Today on the podcast, I have Cristy Russel from Empower the Woman, and I'm so excited for this episode. Cristy's someone that I've wanted on the podcast since I thought about launching it. I met you, Cristy, I think in like a cafe through a mutual friend, through Rani. And I'd seen your work on Facebook, and I remember being really intrigued by your women's circles. And I remembered saying to you like, oh yes, I've been meaning to get along to your events. And then after we'd met, I did make the effort to get along, and yeah, your work has been a huge part of my transformation and my growth, and it's helped me so much, like attending your women's circles in particular. So thank you so much for that, and welcome to Spiritual AF.
It's really cool to be here.
So first, I'd love to ask you a bit about your story and how you started doing this work that you're doing now.
I think it would probably be around 12 years ago. So I've got an 11-year-old, and I was pregnant with her, and I was preparing for her birth, and I decided at that point to step out of the mainstream medical system and have a home birth. And then that just opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. So I felt like I did lots of research and lots of reading, because that's who I am. And in that time, I realised how women have such little choice during that process of becoming a mother, and how things are just done to us, and how we believe that's just how it should be. So deciding for that not to happen was really challenging. It was scary and empowering, but I felt really lonely as well. Home birth looked very different to what it does now, 12 years ago. And there wasn't a lot of us around. So yeah, it was just like a massive beginning. So, obviously becoming a mother then kind of threw me into really exploring all of these parts of me that I had suppressed, and I don't know, just becoming so connected to another person, to another little person, and meeting their needs and being there for her. And I had time because I was a stay-at-home mum. So everything came boiling to the surface, and I was just like on this roller coaster of learning, and it was amazing, and it was really challenging. And from there, I think I decided I'd become a childbirth educator, because I wanted to change the world and give women choice and show them that they have choice and that they can make different decisions and empower them. And I did that for a while, and I did my breastfeeding, like counselling. And then I started to run women's circles, mainly for mothers at the time. And that was just so powerful. And from there, I kept learning myself, and I really discovered that all of my work kept coming back to the womb space. And I did an apprenticeship on womb awakening for a year. And I just discovered that we hold all of our power in our womb. It holds all our innate wisdom, and it also holds all our trauma, our fears, our insecurities. And we have lots of blocks in our vagina, cervix, womb. And the more I dug into that, I could then incorporate it into work that I did with women. So I started running programs for women in circle. So I think you came to my first change makers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just watching women like surrender and listen to each other and grow, I went, now this is powerful shit, and I have to keep doing this. And women in the community keep coming. So as I have morphed as a person, my business reflects who I am completely, and it just keeps kind of changing as I change. Still always comes back to womb work. So I then, extended that and did the yoni steaming. And I find that that's even connected because I often work with women with their cycles, and that brings up a whole lot of other stuff because it often is very emotional. And then that's led to me doing my embodiment work this year, which has been around holistic sexuality and women exploring their power from that perspective and pleasure and that kind of thing. So it's all connected. And I was just talking before about letting some things go, and I have let some things go, but I still kind of weave it into everything that I do. So it's been a massive journey, a massive self journey. And I decided that I can only take women as far as they're willing to go, as far as I'm willing to go, sorry. So that's really important for me, that I continue to do my own self-development. So it's like I'm not projecting unhealthy stuff that I've got going on, so it all comes back together. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so much in
I know.
there.
It's like huge. Sorry, that was like just like this little snippet.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've absolutely loved seeing your business expand the way that it has been, and I've always felt so aligned to you. I've always felt like every time that I've needed something, that's been your offering.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is exactly what I need. It's amazing how perfect it is. So it's incredible work that you're doing. And if there's anyone who hasn't attended a women's circle, I highly recommend it. We've spoken about it a few times on the podcast, but they're just such powerful, magical spaces. So I'd probably like to go into that transformation of the mother. And I know a lot of women have this experience of it's like a redirection in life after they have their first baby, and they do get that time at home, and they get that grounding time. And so can you go into a little bit more detail on what your belief is around that idea of transformation of the mother?
So I feel like it's a rebirth of yourself. And I'm offering at the moment a program called the Initiated Mother for women that are, just pregnant, where we can spend 6 months together, and it's really about that initiation time. So an initiation is like facing challenges that are really significant, and having the challenges and obstacles that you can overcome, So pregnancy does present that, especially in the Western world, because we have so many challenges that we don't often realize that are there. And also on a physical level, on an emotional level, spiritually. But I think then the birth process itself is such a rite of passage for women. It's probably the biggest rite of passage you'll experience if you choose to have a child. And then you're kind of thrust into motherhood, like you have this little person. And as I said before, if you allow yourself the time, and not everyone does, but if you allow yourself the time to sit in motherhood and in that energy of motherhood, it kind of, it just presents to you all of your shadows. That's what I feel. And it's like everything you thought you were is just taken to a whole new level. It allows you to question. They're such challenging little beings, children and babies, and they will take everything just from your anger, your patience, your resilience, your love. All of those are challenged. So every step is like a new opportunity for you to transform into the next level of yourself, I feel like. So, and it doesn't, you have those early years that, like I always say, that I always call it, that's when you're in the thick of it. Like it's just consuming, and it's, it doesn't end. And, that's one time, but as your children grow, it just continues. So my children are, late primary school now. And it's still as challenging as it was, just in different ways. And I'm still uncovering and discovering things about myself from where they're at now. So I just feel like it's this continuous transformation. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be where I am now if I hadn't had children. And I ponder on this quite a bit, you know, because obviously not all women want to have children or have children, but I think it's such a powerful part of our transformation as women.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a bit controversial, but it's something about that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a really interesting topic that's definitely been presented in my life and people that I've spoken to as well. But that program, The Initiated Mother, just sounds so perfect. And I've felt that in the Western society, when you get pregnant, it's all this like medical, you know, it's all about doctor's appointments and ultrasounds, a lot of unnecessary testing. That's, you know, you're told that you don't have any choice. It's something that you have to do. There's a lot of like, you have to do this, lack of choice within that pregnancy period. And I felt that for me, when I had my son, my first child, I had zero preparation to experience that transformation of the mother, and it was hard and it was horrible. And I think this is when you see a lot of that postnatal depression and different things like that, because women are not being prepared for that unlayering, and they're not being supported at all throughout that process. So to have that offering to provide pregnant women support throughout that process just sounds incredible. Yeah,
it's definitely for me around, I do a lot of masculine and feminine work, so it's around really inviting yourself into your feminine. So we spent a lot of time in that 6 months exploring our feminine and really being able to surrender and be vulnerable, because that's what birth takes, and also early mothering, I feel like. So this has been much more than just childbirth education, which I believe very strongly in, and having evidence-based support and information, but it's been much more around practicing coming into your body and having time with yourself. So when that moment comes of crossing that threshold, which is the birth, that you can pull out that within yourself and feel safe in that space of your body.
Yeah. Definitely.
So it's quite different, and I've said before, I feel like that's my place in the birth world now. Like definitely I can give people evidence-based information, but this is the work.
Beautiful. One thing that I am very curious about at the moment is actually preconception work. So have you got anything to share around what women could do in that preconception time? Maybe if they're unsure if babies are in their future, or even in that time of conceiving. Yeah,
I feel like preconception is vital. Like, I thought I did all this work preconception, and now I look back and I go, well, I got I was seeing a naturopath and I was doing things for my physical body. I think doing work on your inner world is so essential if you're planning on in your preconception time. Because as we know, like I've just spoken about, so much stuff comes up after you have your baby, which is going to happen anyway. But I think having a good foundation for yourself emotionally is really important. So I think often we just get so busy in life, and women are full-time working, and they're popping their morning vitamins and off they go, and they feel like they're dealing with their preconception. You know, I'm ready, I'm here, let's just do this. And they're just running around busy, and I think that it's just completely overlooked. I think that we need to that inner work. Women could start before they get pregnant, just such a bonus. The other thing I think is really important is to pay attention to your cycle and really tend to getting a healthy cycle happening. This is from my steaming knowledge, I suppose, is that if you have a healthy cycle, your likelihood of holding a pregnancy is much stronger.
Yeah.
and also your period after, when it returns, will be a much more pleasant experience than having mad hormones and, all kinds of things happening. So, I do quite a lot of work with women that are getting ready to have babies, and I just get so impressed with each one that ever calls me, because I'm like, oh, all women need to be doing this, and good on you, because they're putting off actually getting pregnant to try to get their cycles back in line and to get ready for that process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit more about the steaming, because this is so new to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you can explain exactly this offering that you provide, what the benefits are.
Yeah, cool. So it's called vaginal steaming in some places. America like to call it vaginal steaming. I call it yoni steaming. It's actually an ancient healing practice that was developed by women for women, which for me, initially, I just went, oh, that's enticing. I love that to begin with. It's a universal practice. So it's like, I think there's at least 70 different cultures across the world that have done steaming for many thousands of years. Some cultures do smoking, but the concept basically is that when we steam with medicinal herbs, that they permeate up through the vulva and into the vagina and cleanse. And I think a lot of people get really concerned about that. Well, the process of menstruating is actually cleansing in itself, which is absolutely true. But what's happening, especially I think today's age, is that we're not cleansing fully, and it's creating a lot of issues with our cycles. So it's really powerful. I think the greatest benefits of it are that it connects women to their cycles, and that needs to happen for everyone. So when I often start with women, I have to ask them lots of questions about their cycles, and there's a lot of, actually, I haven't thought of that, or I'm not sure what colour my blood is, or I'm not sure when that begins, So they're aware, but they're not really aware. Yeah. And as they steam and spend some time with me, that they begin to go, oh, that thing happened again. Like, this is my thing. And everyone's a little bit different. So people have different symptoms that I've never experienced. And then I start to see other women that have the same, but, so it's about learning your body. And I think that's a gift for every woman. And I also think it just supports your cycle to have a healthy cleanse each month. And women shouldn't be living with pain, and women shouldn't be living with periods that last for 10 days. And our idea of what's okay is actually a bit messed up. Like, it shouldn't be something that is a horrible burden or that brings us a lot of grief. And I'm finding that the steaming for many, many women, that changes that. So, and look, I always say it doesn't suit everyone, and I'm not going to lie there, that sometimes it doesn't have an impact on some women, but overall, I see very positive outcomes. Yeah, so I'm working with women with, so many cool things. So women that have endometriosis and are going in for their next, they need to have an operation, and that they have done steaming and it stopped them from they didn't need to go. I've worked with women to get pregnant, which is always so exciting. Long cycles and getting their cycles back into a healthy range between 28 and 30 days. Short cycles, heavy bleeding, so many things. PMS and cramping. Like, some women I've been able to, their steaming has just got rid of all of that for them. Yeah. So it's really powerful.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So healing, and
it also really helps with trauma.
Yeah.
So especially for women that have been sexually abused. as I said before, we just hold so much. We get quite stuck in those areas, and that can create the emotional blocks, can create pain in itself. So it's actually quite very relaxing. Most women go, well, that was weird, but that was really nice. So I think in itself, giving yourself the time, and I it can be quite a practical purpose of come in and we'll steam and we're working on this. And for some other women, it's I actually want this to be more of a spiritual experience. So it can be kind of many different things. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So from that, I think I'd like to talk a little bit about miscarriage.
Yeah.
So you did mention that briefly, that sometimes the preparation, the preconception preparation, and even, was it the yoni steaming, can help avoid a miscarriage, or
I think look, I don't and look, the thing with yoni steaming is that there's a lot of anecdotal support. So I always say I'm not a medical professional, and it's just from my experience and from the studies that have been done around yoni steaming that I think with fertility it really helps, because it gets women's ovulation to be quite like a good ovulation. Because if you've got like a 37 day cycle, like you're not sure when you're going to ovulate, it's often a bit later. But if we have a cycle between 28 and 30 days, then that ovulation period is strong. It allows us to go into a nice healthy cycle, and then that helps with getting pregnant and fertility. And then miscarriage, I've had some women that have come to me because they've had a miscarriage, and the thing with miscarriage is that sometimes bits and pieces get left behind, and you want to have a really good cleanse after a miscarriage. So we want to be able to really flush the whole womb out and prepare for the next time that you're going to conceive. So steaming absolutely does that. And even women that have had miscarriages like 3 or 4 years ago, they come and they've had not great periods for all this time. They might have had a baby in between there and the periods still aren't great. And we can do some really good steaming and you can see their cycle fall back into a much nicer place. Yeah, I think working with miscarriage, it can sometimes prevent D&Cs as well for women, like where you have to go in and get like a medical procedure to be cleaned out, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it just depends where women listen to themselves and work out that if they feel like they want to go down the medical avenue and have a D&C. Sometimes women are like, I actually don't want to have that invasiveness in my body.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try this first, and then if I don't feel like that's been successful, then I could go and get a D&C. So it's just giving women a bit more of choice.
Yes.
And like I said, it's quite spiritual. It can be quite a spiritual process, steaming. So I think that allowing that process of letting go and spending time with yourself each day that you steam after you have a miscarriage, it's very healing for women, and it completes that miscarriage. Like women often feel quite completed, like, this has happened and I'm nurturing myself and I'm recovering. And women don't actually recover from a miscarriage until they have a healthy cycle again, their next healthy cycle. So sometimes you might bleed, you might have a cycle, it might be, another month away or so, and it wasn't a great cycle, it was all over the place and you were spotting or you had all these things. I wouldn't call that a healthy cycle. It was the next cycle where it's, in a 28 to 30 day process and it's a 4 or 5 day bleed. That would be a next healthy cycle. So recovery can be, for some women, quite a few months, but they think they've had the miscarriage and it's done. But it's actually a process. And I think when you give yourself time and honour your body and the baby, it really, it's a completion. And it allows women to go into that next pregnancy, if that's what they're choosing, in a very different headspace.
Yeah.
Rather than everything happening really quick, like it does sometimes in the medical system, and then they're home and they're like, what now? I'm apparently healed and I'm okay, and what's the next thing? And obviously when I work with women that have had miscarriage, there's lots of talking in that process as well. There's lots of listening and validation. So I feel like holding space for those women is a really essential part of the process. And I think that's healing for them as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's another avenue.
Yeah, wonderful. And I do feel like miscarriage just feels way too common. And I wish I understood why these things happen. There's probably so much that we could go into that. But do you have any sort of advice for, women that, may know a friend or a sister, anyone who's going through a miscarriage, and maybe what they could do to support them through that process, or things that we could say?
Yeah, I think definitely, I think even if you've had a miscarriage yourself before, which I haven't, so I never pretend that I fully understand, but not saying I get it, like I know what you're going through, because I think that it's more about them, this process. It doesn't matter what your experience has been. Like it needs to be their time and their experience. So really listening is key. I think that asking them what they would like from you, especially if you're a close friend, like what is it that you need from me? Do you need me? And give them some examples, like this is what I can offer you, because we can't always offer everything. We have our own limitations. So it might be that you can say, I can offer you time to listen. I can offer you to clean your house. I can offer to hold you if you want to be held. I can offer advice if that's what you want, and give them some choice in what you're providing for them, because not every two women are the same in how they're going to grieve when they lose a baby, and you can't, it might not. Sometimes we can't provide things, so they may be wanting something from us that we can't provide. And that's okay too, and that's where you can say, well, I can't do that for you, but I can do this for you. Yeah, so being open, giving them time, and not being afraid that some people need to speak about the nitty-gritty part, and I find that's more than you realise. Like they want to say what it looked like. Yeah. They want to say what it felt like, and we sometimes shy away from that discussion because we think it's going to traumatize them or be really too much. But some women, that's what they actually need. If you can't do it, you need to say what you can do. Yeah. I think that's important. Yeah, definitely. And if you can't do those bits, then maybe say, is there anyone else that you can speak to about this? Or yeah. Yeah. And I guess now that we know that you do offer this beautiful service, that could be part of that conversation too, is, that this absolutely is something that could be healing for them. Yeah. So I'd love to hear, what is your number one spiritual practice? So this might be something that you do every day, or something that you always come back to. Every day I sit at my altar, and it's something that I've done for many years now. So I have an altar in my bedroom that my husband made for me, and it's got all my special little bits and pieces on it. And I have a ritual where I light a candle, I put on an oil that feels like is what I want to embody or give me whatever. And I have a little sequence that I do that is some movement with some breath, and I connect an intention to it generally. So I call that my morning ritual. I sometimes teach that or share that with people in circle. And I will do that before I leave the house in the morning, which can be a bit mad sometimes. So sometimes the girls, my two children, will join me, and I just do my own thing while they're doing oils and cards and stuff like that. So it can be a very quick process. Sometimes it can be like 3 minutes. I've got 3 minutes, quickly, Cristy. And it's about grounding myself, really. Yeah. And setting up the energy that I want to put out into the world for the day. So if I've got something big at work on, or I'm holding space for some really challenging students, or something like that's happening, like I might put something into that in my intention. I may manifest during that. And then I generally will have a deck of cards that I'll pull a card and place that on my altar. I also have my intention for the month from the moon cycle is sitting there, so I might look at that and read that every day. So that's just always my go-to. And then I have lots of other things that I do. So I do a lot of breath work, and I have embodiment practices that I've been using this year with the training that I've done. So sometimes they're a lot longer, like a Wednesday and a Friday. I don't work in an office, so I have more time, and I try to get some sort of self-pleasure in those days. And just all depends on what's happening. But that one in the morning is my grounding, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Blow out that candle, and I'm like, get this shit going. I'm ready for the day.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
I've just been learning a lot about altar spaces and how powerful they are, and slowly setting up altar spaces. And I will, of course, link all of your like Instagram and Facebook and different things like that in the show notes, because I actually screenshotted your altar that you posted on Instagram. I was like, I want something like that. That looks amazing. Yeah. Like it would have been like a year or two ago, and I've still got it on my phone.
That's so cool.
Oh, it's such a beautiful altar. I really want that space. I'm sorry to interrupt this episode, but I have to share some amazing products with you. Beauty by BB skincare range. It is all vegan, all made from recycled materials and can be recycled. It is completely free from toxins, and it works. It is so beautiful. So if you're interested in trying out this beautiful range, Beauty by BB, check out my link in the show notes. You can order this whole range and it will be posted directly to you, and I know you're going to love it. So let's talk a bit more about the embodiment and the training that you've been doing this year, because I'm very excited to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I feel like my next step as a person was, I don't know, more about my feminine, because that's been something that I'm doing a lot of work on probably the last 5 or 6 years. And I feel like that this work that I have stepped into, it's called Fembodiment Method, and I've become a trainer, and I spent, I think, 500 hours this year doing training, which is a lot. Yeah. And I've worked really closely with an amazing woman called Jenny Mears and other women that have been doing the training. And it has really been around, for me, the biggest takeaway has been around really learning how to surrender. It's something that I find I have struggled with because I have sat so strongly in my masculine, and that's quite terrifying to me to surrender when I tap into my unhealthy masculine of being in control. So and we have done this through So Jenny is, she's a sexologist, and she's done a lot of Tantra work. So it's kind of like bringing those two together. So it's been a lot of Tantra training as well, and coming into knowing myself. And that's been, a lot has been around learning, I suppose, around pleasure, and how to come into your body, not just think, can I feel my body? I feel my body, I'm in my body. But it's very hard to explain, but doing a lot of work. Yeah. Coming right down deep into your womb and into your body, and being able to listen to it and to be able to move it and to be able to work with yourself in ways that let go of shame. And that's been totally powerful work. And I have sat on that this year. I haven't really brought it too much into my work this year because I feel like that I really needed to be able to be this myself. So next year I will, I'm creating these holidays, some programs for women, and definitely I think we'll start with, because part of it is that you're a holistic sexuality educator, and I want to teach women about themselves sexually.
Yeah.
So that's probably where we'll start, I think.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
So that's really exciting work.
Yeah. And
it just ripples through your whole life.
Yeah,
like if you can really tap into your sexual energy, it just brings you alive. It's the aliveness within us, and we're very good at putting our little fire out, you know. So it's around building your sexuality and using that to manifest and to be life, because it just actually comes off your aura, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the feminine rising has been a massive theme of 2020, and it's been really beautiful to watch all of these women come alive this year. And it's been huge for me too. And I do remember you in circle sharing that you felt quite naturally in your masculine, and then reflecting, because we're both Leos. And we're both similar in lots of ways. And I remember being like, I'm very in my masculine too. So this year, and especially the last 6 months, I've been really actively learning about embodiment, because it is hard to explain.
It is, yes.
And it's hard to grasp, even though I'm a woman. I've definitely I'm not embodying anything. In all of my spiritual practices, I realized I'm very masculine.
Meditation,
yes,
masculine.
Yoga, masculine.
Yeah.
Whereas, I used to love dance, and for some reason this year, I struggle to move my hips.
Yes.
I struggle to be in this flowy body that I have access to, but I feel so stiff.
Yeah.
So it's something that I definitely want to learn more about. So I'm sure I'm going to be involved in these programs that you're going to put out there. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's exciting. And just using your voice and sound, which I've done sound birth as well. So it's kind of like all coming together. So being able to unblock our chakras, our throat chakras as women.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. So
it reminds me, actually, I've heard that in terms of pleasure and orgasm, that your throat chakra is an essential part of that, and that it's very important to be making noise, and same as birth, exactly that.
Well, it all happens, it's all the same, isn't it? So definitely, so the initiated mother, we definitely explored sound, because that is such a powerful pain relief and opens up our cervix. And obviously pleasure, the same idea, where it's so connected with our throat and our vagina and our cervix. So when we can't speak our truth, we will actually be very tight in our vagina and our cervix. And it's like we need to be soft and open and beautiful, and so they're very connected, and you can see women actually the change once you can start to just speak up, and to use noise is a great way to practice that. So it's really challenging work though. So this is about taking women that bit deeper. It's taking it from just talking, because that's the beautiful thing about circle is talking and listening and sharing. But I feel like this work is around the next level of how to make, I get it, but how do I do it? So and I think that's been my journey. I always got things, I get what I need to do, I get how I need to make a change. Why can't I fucking make the change, So it's around being able to change things on a cellular level in your body enough that you can start to do. Which is your masculine. You want to lead with your feminine and then lead with your feminine and bring your masculine in and lean into him, that he's going to support you and be able to do what you actually want to do.
Yes, definitely. And even as you were talking before, I've done some reflections and a few episodes around that oppression of the feminine, because we're rising and we're healing from all of that generational oppression. And it makes sense to why women have been, or little girls, you got to be quiet.
And good girls.
Good girls aren't loud and that sort of thing. And even I look at my daughter and she's so loud. And, there's always been there's kind of a part that comes up like, oh, you're so loud. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to put that on her. She's allowed to be loud.
And it gets squashed somewhere along the line. Like, you know, so you'll often hear me talk about our wild woman and tapping into her because she's just waiting all the time to be released, you know. And she's powerful and she needs to be heard.
Yes, definitely. So anything else focusing on being a mother that has really helped you on your journey?
Yeah, there's a few things, I think. Self-reflection has been huge. So motherhood's hard and you have to be able to reflect enough to say, this really worked, or this didn't work, or I've overstepped the mark. You know, like, I think that self-reflection is really, really powerful. So you've got to be doing that regularly as a mum, I feel like, as in your role as a mother, you know. The other one, interestingly, when I was a little girl, in our toilet, my mum had this big sign in our toilet that she had written that said, there's really no bad children, only children with unfulfilled needs. And I used to read that all the time and not quite get it, you know. And then as I've become a mother myself, it's really made me realise that our children's behaviour tells us a lot. And my role as a mother, part of that is meeting my children's needs and not being afraid to do that, especially in the Western culture. And when they were very little, I lived very much by that I'm meeting their needs, because, you know, at that time, that's all that they could tell me was what they needed, by crying or by doing whatever. So I would meet their needs. And that has changed and morphed, and I've been able to develop boundaries around that as they've got older. And that's how they learn. That's how they learn how the world works. And that's how they learn what they can trust. And I think it is actually really powerful when you can bring in those boundaries with them around that as well. Because I think the problem sometimes, especially like with the concept of meeting your children's needs and things like attachment parenting and whatever you want to call it, is that sometimes women go the other way and they give, and kids don't learn how to do things themselves and that kind of stuff. So it's this like this time of working out, what am I giving? What am I receiving? What am I teaching? And how can I meet them? Because they're children. Yeah. So that was really powerful. And then when that happens, you're listening to your intuition all the time.
That's right.
Because you're questioning yourself. So you've got to dig deep and say, you know, that's like self-reflection. Am I doing what they need? Am I meeting my needs? You know, blah, blah, blah. And it gives you confidence. Like, you don't question, you don't have to listen to the noise outside about how you're supposed to be doing things, because you can listen to yourself and it gives you all your answers.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's been a massive part of my journey. Something that I was quite good at from very early on. So I had a lot of confidence in my mothering from it was hard. I was knackered, but it gave me confidence all the time that what I was doing was good for my children. And I was being an awesome mum. So that constant self-reflection, tapping in, listening to your children, learning who they are, reading them. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm massive in self-reflection and journaling and even sometimes in terms of your partnerships, there's things that come up in conversation, and sometimes I just say, I think you need to go and reflect on this, because I'm sure I could give you some answers, but I think it'd be more powerful if you came up with them. That's right. Because it can be easy to see other people's stuff. It can be a bit trickier to see our own, and especially if you're not in practice of connecting with yourself.
Well, I think it's, you know, we tell all these mums to be, you know, you just need to listen to your gut, which is listening to your intuition. But I'm like, we haven't been taught how to do that.
Yeah.
That's why doing that work before you have children is such a gift, because, you know, you need to know how to connect with yourself. And women are just like going, I don't know what's right. And that's because they can't connect with themselves. And it's very hard to start connecting with yourself when you've got a newborn baby or a little person who's crying or you're not getting sleep, that kind of stuff. So that's the beauty of starting this work before you have a baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, super powerful if you can start to listen to yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so amazing. I'm so grateful for your time today, and this conversation's been beautiful, and I can already feel a few other episodes maybe down the track, especially stuff on boundaries.
Yeah, that's a big one for me.
Yes, it's a good topic.
It is.
But I so appreciate this. Now, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they've loved what they've heard and they want to, you know, follow your journey?
Mm-hmm.
How can they connect?
Empower the Woman is my handle on Insta.
Yeah.
And it's I've got Empower the Woman on Facebook. I have a private group where most of my more intimate sharing work happens in there. And also my website, which is empowerthewoman.com.au. So you can find me there as well.
And as I mentioned, I'll link all of them so that it's super, super easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks again for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed that episode with Cristy Russel from Empower the Woman, please let me know. Post on Instagram or Facebook and tag me in it, or screenshot this podcast and share it on your social media. All my links are in the show notes. Of course, same as Cristy's, if you're curious about following her journey, or if you're local to us and are interested in working with her. I know you are going to get so much from her, because I have. Cristy has been a huge part in my journey into where I am today, and I believe in the work that she's doing so much. I'm so grateful to have her in my life, so blessed that she was open to sharing her wisdom on this podcast, and I cannot wait for the next time that we connect, and I know that you'll enjoy even more of what she has to share. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to be following this podcast. We release new episodes every single Friday here in Australian time. As well as, if you enjoyed this episode in particular, please share it with a friend, share the link, tag Cristy and I in it. We'd love to know what you're enjoying from it or what you're getting out of this content that we're sharing with you. And remember, even if your wings have been clipped off, they can always regrow.